Welcome to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. We are joined today. Yes, you have Sir Rick sitting down, kind of chilling right here. Way over there, we actually tried to get him out of the picture, but he moved back in. Is none other than Drive Safe Dave.
I scooted in.
And Dave, we have a special guest today. You want to do the intro?
Yeah, it's Jordan, right? Jordan? Good. Yeah, I feel like you forgot his name.
No, Jordan Graft. No, I didn't think you knew
I thought you almost said Brad.
Hold on a second. So here's the deal, though. So Dave had the little cheat sheet, so I was going to take it away from him because sometimes he'll not remember the name. So I was going to take it and then ask you the name, and you kind of froze for a second. No, we have Jordan Graft with Highway.
Hey,
what's going on, man?
Hey, Rick, good. Thanks for having me.
No, I appreciate you joining us. All right. So everybody's going to want to know. We see the sign behind us. Hey, what the heck is Highway?
Is it not just where you drive, right?
It's not where you just drive. So Highway is carrier identity for freight brokers and 3PLs. And so why that matters to freight brokers and 3PLs is some of the biggest challenges we face in this industry today. Things like stolen loads, hostage loads, double brokering, carrier identity theft. All these at their core are identity problems. And so to solve these problems, we need to have better carrier identity for this community. And it's good for both brokers and carriers. It's good for good actors because it brings them to the surface and highlights that they're a good actor and that all the good things they're doing while keeping out the noise and the junk from the bad actors.
So I'm just going to go there because, this has been such a manual process in what we've done in our industry, meaning, we think we call somebody up, and to try to verify, are they a real carrier or not? We look at safer sys, we do all these things manually, and the bad guys have figured it out. Right? They may go and change how many truck count they have in safer system. It looks like they have 50 trucks, but maybe they only have 4 trucks or no trucks, right? And your software can go in there and help the trucking company, the broker, identify the bad carriers. But how do you really do that? I mean, how can you take a manual process and take it over to a systematic process?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I mean, first just like quantifying the problem for people and then talking about how we solve it. There's 350,000 MC numbers in the U.S. with active authorized for property authority as of this morning. And why that should scare you is because, I've had the benefit of working in, running TriumphPay for a while and then now running Highway and talking to other people in the space. And the amount of carriers that actually run Class 8 trucks running interstate for brokers isn't 350,000. It's closer to 150 to 200,000. Wow. And why that should scare you is there's a lot of MC numbers. I'm here today telling you there are thousands, if not tens of thousands, of MC numbers that are only issued to people that are trying to use them for bad activities, right? They're stockpiling these MC numbers. Maybe they run a few trucks under them to make the inspections pop up because they know people look for that now. And that's empirical. Anecdotally, we talk to brokers that will, sometimes they'll have a stolen load. These are brokers that are wanting to come to Highway, and they'll talk about, hey, I got a hold of the person who has my load, and I say, hey, I'm going to shut down your MC. I'm going to put a freight guard on it or something like that. And the other person, the bad actor on the other side of the phone says, well, I got 40 more. We've heard that multiple times from other brokers. So anecdotally, we know that's true. And empirically, we know it's true that there are thousands, if not tens of thousands of MC numbers that are their sole purpose is just to be stockpiled for use for these types of bad activities or fraudulent activities in the future.
And you talk about that. We brought it up in the show. We read the articles. Let's just talk candidly. How bad of a problem are we talking in the transportation industry here in the United States with this double brokering?
Yeah, so let's break it down into 2 sections. So the first is stolen loads, and the second is double brokering, and talk about the instances of double brokering that result in fraud or loss, like financial loss. Right. So in terms of stolen loads, there's been a 300 to 400% increase this year in the number of stolen loads, and that data comes from CargoNet. And this is, we're talking millions, tens of millions of dollars of cargo that has been stolen in the U.S. this year. So it's a real number that is impacting our supply chain.
And we all pay that. Ultimately, we all pay that.
Absolutely.
None of us get away. We ultimately all pay that cost. And then let's talk the other aspect. Let's talk double brokering.
Yeah. So double brokering, we did a study with TriumphPay on how much activity we thought was flowing through an MC number that wasn't really running the load. And that number is in the billions of dollars, right? Of the amount of dollars that are flowing through entities that are not actually running the load. Now, where this matters is when the carrier doesn't get paid. Exactly. Okay, where that really impacts people. Like, let's talk about the double broker that we need to solve with urgency in this industry, and that is people trying to get a carrier to run a load for the load that they took from some broker over here, and then they don't pay the carrier and they run off with the money.
Correct.
That's where the carriers get hurt. And that's what really hurts this economy in this industry is when the carriers aren't getting paid. Like, I remember when I started TriumphPay, my mentor is a guy named Steve Hausman. He said, Jordan, the first thing you got to learn is the carrier always needs to get paid. Get the carrier paid, right? Because that is the lifeblood for those entities that got to pay for the fuel. They got to pay for the truck. They are the ones that have so much of that cost. So we got to get the carrier paid. And so when that's not happening, that's hurting the small carriers. They don't have the financial wherewithal to withstand multiple hits like that. So like we've got to get that out of our industry.
And let's face it, I mean, when a carrier does not get paid, somebody's still going to have to pay that bill. Maybe it's the shipper that has to pay it again, right? Or maybe it's that broker that says, you know what, I'm just going to have to pay them because I don't want my customer to know that we have a carrier out there that has a problem. You know, it's so for the shippers out there, you know, they need an answer to this problem. Because it does nobody good when a load gets stolen. It does nobody any good when a load is double brokered, even the shippers, because it eventually is noise to them, and they need help from carriers. They need help from their brokers to put a check and balance into place to try to keep it from happening when you can find when it is preventable. Hey, find a way to make it not happen.
Yeah, and you know, Rick, we like to talk about an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Like we use that saying a lot at Highway. It's having preventative measures in place at the front of your process, right? To prevent this from getting into your network by making sure you're working with brokers that have great, as a shipper, making sure you're working with brokers that have these controls and processes in place so that stuff stays out of your network. Because once it's in your network, it's really hard to clean the house, right? Once that stuff gets in, it's a mind-numbing exercise to try and pick through, separate the wheat from the chaff. It's really painful.
Jordan, now let me ask you a quick question. So we've all known, and just everybody in the United States truly realizes that identity theft is a problem. We're all susceptible to it in the transportation industry at some time or another.
Oh, man, Dave, I mean, you're spot on, right? So when we talk about carrier identity, we say carrier identity is three things. The first is, who are you? The second is, are you really the carrier you claim to be? And the third is, what equipment do you actually have?
Right.
And so let's break down what that means. And you know, where that comes from is, so I'm a developer, right? In software development and network management, you always have this thing called identity and access management.
That's correct.
Right? That's something that we do everything we do, right? Like, it's what we do. And all I did with Highway was take the principles of identity and access management from software and apply it to a broker's carrier network. And so we just took the principles of authentication, authorization, and capability management and applied it to a carrier network. Now, what that means is when we say the first question, who are you? That's authentication. We use the sign in with Highway experience to make sure that a carrier doesn't have to create multiple logins. They have one login. It's passwordless because passwords are the most insecure and worthless form of authentication. It's either tied to corporate email or a real mobile phone in North America. Like, we are using that to identify who are you.
Right.
The second is, are you really the carrier? Now, this one is us taking a person that we've authenticated now saying, hey, you claim to be this MC number. Are you really that MC number? And why this is so important now is, in Highway, 90% of the time, we don't rely on FMCSA data to authenticate, to authorize that they are that carrier.
Wow.
Why that matters is, in the last 90 days, one of the attack vectors that these people have changed is they have figured out how to get good carriers to change their emails in the FMCSA. And the FMCSA data has been compromised. And so if you just look at Safer now, and you just look at the LNI database, those emails and phones you see in there, some of them are compromised. What the bad actors realized is we were blocking them from being able to pretend to be a carrier, and so they tried to go upstream to get the FMCSA data changed, and they were successful.
How difficult is it for Highway to step in and start protecting right away everybody within the industry once you give you guys a call?
Yeah, it's pretty quick. You know, when we work with a broker, the first thing we do is say, hey, here are the carriers that we have a really solid beat on their identity. We know who they are. We know how much equipment they actually have. And, you know, you should keep running with these carriers. Here's a bucket of carriers that we're not sure yet. And we want you to bring them back through the process to, like, bring them, you know, to make sure you're
re-identify.
Yeah, and also it's protecting the carrier. Make sure you're actually working with the carrier. And then the third bucket is just like, hey, here's carriers that probably just don't make sense for your network. There's things that we look at that we say, man, like this is a really high-risk situation, and the carrier hasn't taken the steps to remediate. See, that's what's different about highway is we want to give the carrier pass to like remediate or like fix any problems and prove that they have true identity, right? And it gives the carrier that just got their authority a chance, right? Give them a chance to like get some loads. And by that, we look at like things like ELD. We look at things like their insurance to make comparisons to say, does it make sense? Does the ELD data match what the insurance is saying? And should you give this carrier a chance?
You guys, you know, like when you go to the airport, there's 2 lines you can go into, right? Then you have this other line that you can go. And that's been a system in which they've checked you out. You've gone in and you got your deal done, and then you get zipped right through the line, right? So you know, right? So you've actually gone through that checkout process. I'm thinking that kind of highways that ideology where you get that zip through process because you've already verified these guys. Do you know what I'm talking about at the airport?
Dude, Dave, did you tell him this? That slide is in our slide deck.
Oh, is it
You
really?
just described it in our sales deck. That is literally what we sell
sorry.
to brokers. It's perfect. I mean, no, it's perfect. You're exactly right. The brokers look at that profile and they're like, man, the person that took the steps to do that is someone I want to work with. So, like, let's just step back for a second. Why does that solve the problem? It's because of these. It's footprints. So this is how we separate in a digital world bad actors from good actors is digital footprint. Like guys that have been doing this 20, 30 years are like, why does this need to happen now? The fraud is that bad. The stolen loads are that bad. I mean, it's so bad.
You're talking about huge problems, and I think this is a great way to solve it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to that here because I'm gonna speak from experience. We had a load that was getting pulled from a carrier that had, say, 3 trucks, and they could easily pull 1 load a day on one of our lanes. Well, what had happened is well, we didn't know that, but in other trucking companies, this 3-truck carrier that could easily pull our 1 load a day was also pulling for them and them and them and them, meaning they were double brokering our freight.
Yeah.
And somebody didn't get paid. And we, as an industry, to your point, we've got to find a way. Number one, we owe it to our shippers to get a check and balance in place that works, to do what we can to keep the bad actors out. Our shippers demand it, the shippers need it, and we as an industry, we've got to get them out.
Yeah.
We've got to find a way to work together to get these people out because they hurt our industry.
I agree. And on that, like, you know, we talked a lot about it from the broker to carrier side. You know, what's coming in highway that we're going to be announcing this fall is a product for carriers to look at it the other way, because we need the carriers to have tools to be able to say, is this a real broker?
For sure.
How real is this broker? And using our partnerships in the industry to be able to provide that data. And we want to be able to give that to the carriers because they need tools too. And when we're working together, brokers and carriers, to work with trusted parties, that's how we really cut off these bad actors.
Do a lot of these bad actors share a lot of the same people, meaning maybe it's insurance companies? Are they using the same people to get that apparent, that the insurance that makes them look like they are a carrier?
So I'm going to answer this question as directly as I can, because part of what we know is that they watch what we say and they watch what we do and they listen to my interviews and they look for like the trends that we're trying to create. They try and sign up for a highway account.
Don't if you're a bad actor, don't pay attention to anything I say. And then hey, don't pay attention. But if you're a good guy, we want you to listen. Bad guys, get off the air.
So what I do communicate when this question comes up publicly is, yes, there are patterns we see between these folks. The second thing is we wake up every morning expecting them to continue to evolve. I am relentless in our pursuit of how do we keep staying ahead of them. What we rely on is these principles. We want to make our brokers the hardest target. We want to continue to close the surface area. Third is separating sheep from goats, like looking at this herd, this data that's coming in and picking them out, but doing it in a way that doesn't reveal what we know. If you're a bad actor, we want to waste your time as much as possible, make you think you're succeeding when you really aren't. And so all that's going on in the background. of Highway. Highway is a firewall. That's what we are. We sit at the front of your network and try and prevent the bad stuff from getting in, and you don't have to worry about it. It's just running.
Oh, Jordan, if I'm a broker, big or small, how do I get involved with Highway?
Yeah, it's real simple. You just reach out to us at sales@gohighway.com, and we will get you set up. It takes, depending on your TMS, the integration, anywhere from 3 days to 3 weeks to get it going.
So yeah, we expect you to get a lot of calls in this. We basically expect you to solve all the world's problems as soon as possible, out there as quickly as possible. So, man, I appreciate you coming on. I'm excited that you came on. Great information, positive information. Man, we look forward to using Highway out there every day to make sure that we are protected out there on our highways, right?
Before you say what you got to say, I'm going to say this. Hey, listen, you've got to make a change in what you're doing. If you're doing the same thing you've always done as a broker,
right,
it's got to change. It doesn't work anymore. We as an industry, we got to keep them out of here, which means it requires you to do more than you're doing today. And that doesn't mean doing it manually, because that doesn't work. You've got to find a way, a system, technology to help you and your shipper be a little safer and be better.
All right, Jordan, before you get out of here, we always ask that you state your name, who you're with, and that you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Can you do that for me?
Hi, my name is Jordan Graft. I'm the CEO of Highway, and you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
That was easy. Good job.
All right, we're going back to your local stations. Hey, stay safe out there. And Jordan, hey, thank you for being on.
Thank you so much for having me.
We appreciate it.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Dave.
Bye, everybody.